will make you cry and sob and go through all 5 stages of grief, because that's what I did. You see how the jiggle, oh my god, I've been talking for too long. The jigsaw pieces fit together. This is the only and last time I'm taking a book recommendation from Instagram Reels. Hey my chocolate chip brownies, welcome to this video. So I know that I am 2 months late, oops, but technically I did my 2023 tier ranking books video in April 2024, I think. So this is like early for me. Maybe next year we'll get it on time. I will try to limit yapping because I have, I think, 45 books to get through. And my tier ranking system is based off of the Tortured Poets Department songs. Not necessarily because it was like my favourite album or whatever, but because there was a lot of range within the songs. To explain the tier ranking that I've got, it's all on my laptop next to me. Also, this is so random, I'm already yapping, but I cut bangs, like side bangs myself, and like they turned out like, I didn't mess up my hair, so it's like, quite cute. So yeah, Guilty as Sin, or like the 5-star amazing books that make me go like, oh my god, this will stay with me forever and ever, and I would reread it, and it's just beautiful. And then Peter are books that are like I was obsessed with it when I read it, and I still really appreciate it, but it's not something that I think about all the time, you know? Then we've got the Tortured Poets Department, which is like, I like it, but there were like certain parts where I was like, they're just not something that I would really like go straight to recommending necessarily. Like, oh my god, the song is so good, except the lyrics, and especially the second verse. I do not need to know that Matty Healy ate 7 bars of chocolate and then smoked weed. And then on the 4th tier, we've got Robin. So this tier is for books that are like quite forgettable. Tier is for the books that I genuinely have a hatred. Okay, maybe not hatred, because I don't hate. I'm a stoic guy. I don't feel hatred. But these are books that I dislike. Waste of time, waste of paper, waste of money, waste of like, just yeah. They shouldn't have been written, and I wish I didn't read them. So firstly, I don't know, they're just kind of randomly ordered. Also, I'm really sorry that some of the books look really pixelated. But okay, because I don't know, I want to start off with a good one. Braiding Sweetgrass, immediately Guilty as Sin. This book, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. If like I could vaporize a book and inhale the fumes, it would be this book. Genuinely bury this book with me when I die. It's it does kind of sound scientific because it talks about plant conservation and like how indigenous wisdom can help with that. It's so much more than that, and I think it's essential reading for everyone, regardless of if you like biology and stuff like that, because it talks so much about politics and the importance of gratitude and the dangers of like the current consumerist society that we live in. So genuinely such a good book. Now onto A People, which is Bride by Hazelwood. Peter. It's like a romance between a vampire and a werewolf. But stay with me now. So it's got also like a kidnapping mystery subplot, and I really liked the female friendship between the main character and her best friend. Like, that's what really stood out to me as well. And also the love interest. He has a younger sister and their relationship is super cute as well. Cruel Winds with You was like a winter novella by Ali Hazelwood this year. It's like between the main character and her best friend's younger brother. It was okay, it was forgettable. The love interest was very close to becoming like from cute, in love, obsessed to just weird. Okay, I'm contemplating whether or not to move to Thank You Amy. I'll think about it, because you are like a 25-year-old or something, and he had his phone lock screen as the main character's prom picture, I think. Like, I don't F with that. Okay, so Emma by Jane Austen. Now, this was one of my like most disappointing reads because I loved Persuasion and I loved Pride and Prejudice. So I assume that this one I would absolutely love as well because this is like a fan favourite. But I feel like my opinions of this book are very different to the majority. So I really liked Emma as a character. I know that she was a bit annoying and she was a bit like privileged and a bit snobby, and she never has any bad intentions, like when she accidentally sets up her best friend with a guy who doesn't love her best friend and is actually in love with her. But she's trying, guys, and she does feel she's very interesting, you can't deny that. But I didn't like the romance. Like, I thought it was quite unnecessary because this whole point is like Emma's like this really independent woman and she doesn't really need a man, and then there's just this random romance that's thrown into it. Although I did like the line, if I loved you less I might be able to talk about it more, but that doesn't make up for the fact that you literally don't talk in a romantic way and then all of a sudden you're like, oh actually I'm in love with you and stuff like that. So I liked Emma the character but not necessarily the plot. Like, it was quite boring and it dragged, and I didn't like the side characters. So Flowers for Algernon, it's about a guy called Charlie Gordon, and he has a below average IQ, and as such he isn't really aware when people kind of like make fun of him, which is quite he's so precious, oh my god, but he's so lovely to people regardless. But basically he gets put into this like scientific experiment that was successful with a mouse called algernon, so they're testing on humans now, where his IQ ends up increasing like exponentially. But it's kind of like how his humanity is like compromised, and I do think it is required like reading worthy. It teaches empathy so much, and it's like the idea that we are human and that's enough. So I think I'll go funny story, Emily Henry. I remember finishing it and being like, oh my god, 5 stars, love this book. I can't remember what really happened now, but from it's a child, give me a sec. It's a romance book about a children's librarian called Daphne, and her fiance calls off the engagement because he's actually in love with his childhood female best friend, and so then they get engaged. But said childhood best friend, female best friend, her now former ex-boyfriend, this sounds so confusing, so basically she broke up with her boyfriend as well to be with the main character's ex-fiance. So the main character and the ex-boyfriend start living together because they don't really know anyone else, and it's like between them, and I do remember it was really cute. Like, they show their support in really cute ways, like genuine ways as well. 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. This is like Guilty as Sin level, I think. It's a Trojan War retelling but through the perspectives of the woman who's suffering and pain is like often overlooked. It was written so beautifully. The writing made me feel like the emotions all across the spectrum. The way that you feel so connected to the characters that you're reading about, I think was done so well. I did have a slight issue where at the end there's like this objectively bad guy, but then he kind of gets a redemption arc, so I was a bit like, Natalie, I'm not too sure what you were doing there. But other than that, absolutely beautiful writing, beautiful settings and descriptions, and the characters were so complex and intricate as well. Okay, belladonna was like Robin, like, I don't know, maybe 200 Post Department, I'll put it in there for now, because I feel like foxglove, the sequel, was probably, no, actually switch that around. So belladonna is like romanticy. Main character is called Signa. I don't understand, fantasy has weird names. Signa, and it's like a romance between her and the physical embodiment of death. Yes, I have an issue with the fact that it's a 19-year-old girl and a immortal, probably like 1,000-year-old man. Death, I don't really know what to describe him. Like, it wasn't just a romance. There was the side plot where Signa's best friend is being poisoned by somebody, so it's kind of like a murder mystery almost. And then the sequel is to do with her best friend, and also there's like this random love triangle that I didn't really enjoy. I don't really remember what happened, so I guess we'll just leave it at that. So Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, it's kind of set in like this Nordic place where the main character, Emily Wilde, she is writing her Encyclopedia of Fairies, as the title suggests, and so she's doing research out in the wild, and her colleague Wendell Bambleby, she's pretty convinced that he is a fairy as well, but he's just not showing it. But he joins her, and he's kind of annoying, but he's like quite charismatic and can like talk to the locals, and she's more awkward and reserved, so she kind of tolerates him. So this is the thing, the book almost feels like two different books, because you start off with them in like this cozy town, they're getting to know the locals, they're going out into the forest and they're like finding fairies. Second half, I swear there's like some kidnapping subplot where like children are snatched in like the middle of the night by fairies. It was quite random, and also I didn't like the writing style. Like, it was very scientific, logical kind of like thing. Yeah, I didn't like the romance either, didn't really make sense, and it was just kind of like sprung up random. Daughters of the Moon Goddess, this is about main character, her mum got exiled to the moon because she became immortal. Like, she accidentally had like this immortal potion thing, and so the main character flees the moon because she wasn't meant to like have been born, and so they discover her identity, so she gotta go. But the plot, like the idea of the main character joining trials to become royal family's prince's assistant, and then I'm pretty sure there was some kind of war going on. This is the thing, I feel like so much went on in this book, but because it was like I was overstimulated, like there was so much going on that I can't tell if it happened in this book or in like any other fantasy, but I'm pretty sure there was a war going on. The plot was good and the descriptions were really nice, but I didn't like the main character. She was such pick me. Like, girl, you can't be acting like that, get a grip. And the two love interests, one of them was boring, the other one was morally great, except he was just bad. So the pacing was so bad. Like, genuinely, that one book could have been 2 or 3 books. Like, nothing was explained as much, and that's why I feel like it was such a waste, because the plot was so good, the descriptions were so good, but it just needed more either like build up or more like substance to it, because otherwise the scenes just did not flow, like and so that's why it's quite disappointing. Daydream. So this is, I'm honestly at this point I'm just going to tropify every single romance book, because like so this is basketball player with English literature student, something like that. They're both a bit shy, a bit reserved. The importance of setting boundaries in a romantic relationship was shown in this book, which is good. So it was like a healthy relationship, but it was just forgettable. I don't remember anything. Like, it was kind of boring because I felt like their dialogue wasn't that like interesting, but I could tell that they loved each other and they weren't dislikable characters, I guess. So, okay, now on to like these next 4 books. So The Cruel Prince, probably guilty as sin. It's, I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, but it's a YA fantasy about a girl called Jude, and she's human, but her biological dad is a fairy. Oh wait, so she's like half human, I guess. Who is the ward general to the fairy royal family, something like that. But anyway, in this world, she has to really like fend for herself and like learn how to be strong. One scene, she gets forced to eat like a rotten apple, something like that. Like, they can enchant her to do stuff that she doesn't want to. Actually, hang on, let me just order it. I feel like, to be fair, I can't really differentiate between the books. I'm gonna put Wicked King there, and then Queen of Nothing. I'll just put it there as well. Yeah. So it really follows Jude and like exploring her relationship with her father, her sister, Carden as well. Okay, we'll go on to that. So the romance isn't at the forefront of this book, but it is really, really good. It's genuinely really good enemies to lovers. Like in the first book at the start, I did not like Carden. Like, he pissed me off for real. I was like, there's no way that they're gonna get into a relationship. But they did, and it felt natural as well. Also, the descriptions were really nice, and it was quite immersive, I think, the world building. And there is a scene where it's like, oh, did you not get the letters I sent? What letters? And I was like, like, I eat that up every time. But the letters were only published in like the Barnes and Noble's version, which I found online, and the letters were so good. I think The Queen of Nothing, like, it was the most dramatic and had the most action, so I did enjoy that. Oh yeah, there's like a lot of different subplots and action, and like there's a murder as well, actually, now that I think about it. And Jude gets betrayed so many times, bless. But Queen of Nothing, the ending was slightly weird. I think it was rushed as well, and it's kind of like a happily ever after, which I guess is YA, so it's like expected. But I felt like even though they were like close to death or whatever, I just didn't really feel anything. But I would still absolutely recommend the trilogy. It was very, very fun, very fast paced. And then The King of Elfhame, like, it's kind of forgettable, but it was cute. I think I finished it in like an hour. It's literally just a bunch of short stories about Carden. He's probably the most interesting character because he's like the youngest of the royal family, so it's like he never expected to really like have any importance, but then he's kind of like thrust into that power when stuff goes down. Okay, Babel, oh my god, guilty as sin. Yeah, that looks really pixelated. Oh my god, this book was so good. So it's like historical fiction, but imagine that the British Empire had silver bars where they have magic to them. So if you like carve the word invisible onto a silver bar in 2 different languages, that creates this kind of connection, and you can use that silver bar to become invisible if you activate it. But the people who activate it are like etymologists in a way, like translators. And so the main character Robin and a group of friends and like similar age people, that is their job. They can like come up with new meanings and therefore new silver bars, stuff like that. I'm not doing it justice at all, but basically go read the book. It is so amazing. It will blow your mind, and the ending will make you cry and sob and go through all 5 stages of grief, because that's what I did. I remember I read it, I think I cried in the shower that night, cried on the way to school, and then chemistry period 1 I cried again, and I looked really sad, and I also looked like I was sleeping, so my chemistry teacher asked like if I was okay, and so I was telling him about how it was because I finished reading a good book, and then I told him that it was Babel. So fingers crossed he's going to read it too, because genuinely it's such a well-written book and made me really like realize how interesting etymology is. Okay, now the first Thank You Amy book, Caraval. So Caraval is like, you can enter this competition where you have to complete different trials or something like that, but it's like a circus setting almost on this magical island, and if you win you get granted a wish. I have ranted about this book twice on this channel. I think I have more in-depth reviews of a couple of these books, but basically didn't like the main character, didn't like the love interest, didn't like the side characters, didn't like the plot. Setting was okay, but if you have a magic system it needs to make sense, and so it was very patchy and it was just quite frustrating. So for my own, like, because you know increasing stress levels isn't good for your health, so I'm going to leave the review at that. A Song to Drown Rivers, I think it's a retelling of a Chinese myth where the main character is known for being like really beautiful, and after a war which killed her, so the soldiers from the other like side killed her sister, she wants to take revenge, and she gets offered the opportunity to infiltrate the other side's palace and like get close with the emperor and basically like topple them from the inside. Like, it was so at the end, but I didn't really like the first part. Like, it was much more surface level, but I did love the descriptions. Like, Anne Liang's descriptions of the marketplaces was really good, and just like mountain views and stuff. Happy Place was like one of my favorite books I read this year. It's about a group of friends, and every year they go to this place, I can't remember where, but the descriptions were really, really nice. Like, so it's like coastal, but two people in the friendship group were dating, but then because of miscommunication, except the miscommunication makes sense in this, so I didn't get annoyed, but because they don't want to make it awkward for their friends, they're like, okay, we'll just like pretend that we're dating. And this is like a second chance romance, but it was just something about this book, like I genuinely inhaled it. It was so good, it was so delicious, and I think it was just so cozy as well, because it's like these are like really good friendships, and then not in love. I'll put it in Robin. Plot wise, I can't remember. It was between a food scientist and a really tall blonde guy. That's basically all I remember. Like, it was okay. One thing that I really liked about it was that it definitely had the message across that you are deserving of love regardless of your past. So I think that was quite good. But I think I just didn't really... Okay, you know what? That is actually really sweet. I'm moving it up. Because you are deserving of love, no matter your past, no matter like your own perceptions of yourself, okay? Okay, and then Priory of the Orange Tree, Guilty as Sin. I reread this book this year. It's like an 800-page book, so it's chunky, but it's so worth it. It's about this like uprising of these like evil dragons, spirits, stuff like that, who have been dormant for about 1,000 years. And so from 4 point of views, you get such an expansive, immersive like knowledge of the events leading up to it and what's going on in different parts of this fictional world, because the 4 characters are from completely different backgrounds, and it's so interesting because you don't think there's any way that they can be linked, but then at the end there's like that full circle moment where it all starts to make sense. Like, well, it's not at the end, like along the book as it progresses, you see how the jiggle, oh my god, I've been talking for too long, the jigsaw pieces fit together. And there's a sapphic romance and very strong female characters, and yeah, loved it, would recommend. Good games and good grades and mystery games. I don't remember this book. I think I'll just put it there. This is the only and last time I'm taking a book recommendation from Instagram Reels, and with that kind of cover as well. Like, it's my fault, to be honest. It's literally my fault. I think there were like 6 spag mistakes as well. Like, but I think so. This was like a romance, but I can't actually remember what happened. I don't know if I'm making this up, but I feel like there was a mafia subplot in this. So it was like, okay, I think it's self-published. I think it was doing too much than it needed to, and as such, each element kind of suffered. Master and Margarita. I'll put in Peter, but this was like one of the most interesting books I've ever read. I genuinely couldn't tell you what goes on in this book, except it's like set in Russia, but then there's also like a Jesus subplot. But yeah, like, honestly, Bulgakov, if I smoked weed, I would want him on my dream blunt rotation. Like, this guy's imagination is actually crazy. There's a lot of Russian names, and Russian names are long and for me quite confusing, so that's why it took me a long time, but it was definitely worth it, and it was just so fun, so much fun. The Inheritance games, I just don't think I enjoyed it. Like, the amount of times, because it's YA, but it used swear word substitutes. Like, I remember distinctly how it said mother faxing ducks. Let's think about that. There was no need for that. No need at all. Main character, not really that interesting. Love triangle, didn't care. Yeah, basically I had to force myself to finish this. My Lady Jane, so funny. So this is like imagining that Lady Jane Grey survived and she has a husband called Gifford or Gifford, but call him G, and then it's like the books has her perspective, his perspective, and King Edward's perspectives. But it's so funny, like it had me cracking up. Pacing was great, and yeah, really enjoyed it. So Night Shift, this was romance between basketball player and a bookworm. It was cute. Yeah, it was very insta-lovey, but I don't care. I still really enjoyed it. Like, I actually did really enjoy this book, I think. What else happened? Oh, they made out violently and vigorously in a library and a bookshop. That's the dream, guys. I hope this doesn't find you. I accidentally have it twice, but guilty as in. I reread it twice this year as well, but so good. It's an academic rivals to lovers done well, where the main character Sadie, whenever she gets really pissed at Julian, was it Julius? Julian, I think. She drafts an email venting but doesn't send them. But of course the emails accidentally get sent, and it's quite funny. Him and Sadie are like, they're just really cute. Like, they stand up for each other and they support each other, and for a YA book, like, the romance is written so well. Like, it's not cringy at all, and there were scenes that genuinely had me blushing, giggling, smiling, kicking my feet. And then Water Under the Bridge was a romance between two environmentalists. Like, ironically, it's because I saw a 1-star review that said it talked too much about the environment. I was like, hey, I want to read that now. So I actually quite enjoyed this book. It's kind of enemies to lovers. I can't lie, I feel like I can't explain much about romances. Oh yeah, the main character Avery, she's like very strong-willed, and she definitely had that passion for the environment, which made her interesting. Because I feel like romance books, a lot of the time, it's too focused on the romance and not about the main character or the love interest's like personality and their own interests too. So White Nights by Dostoevsky. Sorry. Have you seen that meme that's like, oh guys, how much smut is in this? Or like, what's the spice level for this book? And it's White Nights by Dostoevsky. So, okay, I really like the writing style. It was perfect for like winter, very well like written in terms of like capturing human emotion on paper. But I didn't like the main character. Like, he absolutely would have been an incel. It's like, why is he blaming, he's like 35, right? Why is he blaming the 19-year-old for not staying, like, for choosing to go back to the guy that she actually knew for like 2 years and fell in love with, instead of him who she has known for a week? I felt like, because people call it like unrequited love and pining, I feel like that was a part that I didn't like the romance aspect. But in terms of like him feeling detached from the like community and the people around him, like that I thought was really interesting to read about. So Percy Jackson and the Wrath of the Triple Goddess, I think is what it's called. It was quite forgettable. Like, I don't know if I'm getting old, but it was just not as good as Charles of the Gods at all. Like, it wasn't as funny, and I kind of just got a bit annoyed at the characters as well. maybe this is just me maturing. Two Can Play was an audiobook by Ali Hazelwood, which was between two video game developers. Didn't enjoy it. It was cringe. Maybe it's because it's audiobook. Like, I think I've realised I cannot stand audiobooks that are narrated by Americans. Because I started listening to The Cruel Prince on audiobook, got to about 5th chapter and I was like, I physically can't take this anymore. And it's like, you cannot say that you have been in love with someone for 5 years when all you've done is looked at them, like seen them across a room like twice a year. And then I felt like the book ended once the relationship started actually progressing and developing. Wild Love also did not enjoy. So it's about this billionaire who's been in love with his brother's younger sister for 10 years, except he hasn't seen her in 10 years, so he's basically pining after like an 18-year-old as like a 30-year-old man, no offense. And it's like he kept having to say, oh yeah, I've been in love with Rosie. Can you believe it? I'm actually tweaking. Can you believe I've been talking for 43 minutes? Oh my god, astronomical levels of yeah. I genuinely was not, like, was planning for this video to be 20 minutes long. And I've just had to, like, because my phone ran out of storage, so I had to upload that video onto my laptop. And so now I'm, like, filming this part. Anyway, so Thursday Murder Club is about a bunch of, like, 8-year-old British people. I don't know what else I was going to say. Actually, no, British people don't exist, guys. I'm Somalian. But they solve murder mystery cases, and there's one that happens near their care home village thing, and so they're like, ooh, yes. So this was quite a cozy book. I don't think about it, so I'm just gonna put it there. But it felt like a Sunday roast, or like beans on toast, or like a nice English breakfast. Serpent of the Wings, and that actually the Serpent and the Wings of the Night. Fantasy books have if you can hear pinging, that's because of the WhatsApp. WhatsApp's like linked to my laptop, sorry. So I can see the messages as well. Okay, anyway. Serpent and the Wings of the Night. This was like a pretty good fantasy. It's like if you imagine the Hunger Games but with vampires. But Araya is only human, and so she has like trained to be strong, blah blah blah. And then if you win this trial game, Hunger Games thing where it's like fight to the death, if you win that, you get granted a wish, and so then she can be like strong. It was a bit gory, and I'm quite a queasy person, so I think maybe it could be guilty as sin level if I was a bit stronger. I opened that to Poach Department. Like, it was fun to read. It was very fast paced. Like, if you want to get into fantasy, go for it. I just want to preface this with, I haven't read Red Queen, so I don't know how bad the plagiarizing claims that people say are. But the issue that I had with this is like, it was so YA in the fact that it was like, oh, I feel so powerless all the time, with like repeating the title. And then it was like, oh, her eyes were as grey as clouds and his were as blue as oceans and that kind of stuff. But powerless is like, again, the main character isn't really meant to be alive. Like, her kind without powers are hunted and killed. Particularly, like, they are under the leadership of the love interest, so it's kind of like an enemies to lovers in that sense. And then she takes part in a Hunger Games type competition in order to win something. But yeah, and then the sequel, Reckless, that was, I remember enjoying it, but I don't remember what really happened. Actually, she did get better. So Reckless got better because they stopped using so many I descriptions and it was a lot more high stakes, a lot more action. Okay, Secret Network of Nature. This is a non-fiction biology book. It talks about the importance of recognizing that species like flora and fauna together are interlinked, and so when we try to implement conservation methods or just like in general, we need to be aware that it's important to protect the ecosystems as a whole. One Dark Window was very good. I think I'll put this one in Peter and then I'll put the sequel, Two Twisted Crowns, in Guilty as Sin. So basically, One Dark Window is, honestly, I think it's the most unique fantasy book that I've read. If you imagine like bare, leafless tree and it's like shrouded in fog, that's the kind of atmosphere that's going on in this book. And it's about the main character Elspeth, and in this world there are cards, like if you imagine playing cards, and they give the people who wield the, that's such a weird word, wield the cards powers. So they have like increasing rarity as well. You've got 2 nightmare cards, and so this is it 1 nightmare card, but they're like one of the rarest. And basically Elspeth has the nightmare monster that's inside the card. It like transferred into her when she like used the card, and so she basically has this like really snarky monster living inside of her that's like, it's like her internal dialogue, except it's like an actual monster. But then it's really interesting because you get that plot twist of like who the monster actually is. But yeah, this book filled with plot twists. There's a really good romance as well, so that's why I really like this sequel. In the sequel, the relationship progressed, rather than like in some series the relationships like regress in order to like go back to what it was. Like they break up because of something and then they get back together, but this one, it kept going on. The second book has 3 perspectives, which is really interesting. I was like metaphorically gripping my chair and rocking back and forth, reading the pages with like heart palpitations and stuff. Okay, Ruthless Vows is the sequel to Divine Rivals. I won't talk about the plot of this book just in case it's like spoiling the plot of Divine Rivals, but Divine Rivals is about Iris and Roman, and they are journalists and they write articles for this newspaper, and there's a war that happens, and so they are basically sent to the front lines. The mythological aspects, I personally didn't really like it that much, but I feel like it helps set up the circumstances for the situations that Roman and Iris go through, so I can tolerate it. But oh my god, unconditional love, literally that is them as a couple. They go through so much and they still choose to care for each other and open up to each other, be vulnerable. And the side characters were all great as well. Descriptions, delicious. The rulebook, it's really forgettable, but I also can't remember anything good about it. Like, yeah, no, can't think of anything good about it. I think I just have an issue with Sarah Adams. Like, she wrote the cheat sheet as well. Her characters are just cringy. I think that's all I can say. Like, the main character genuinely just wanted her to shut up. I'm so sorry. So that's that. And then Puck and Prejudice. Wait, because this one was actually really, really funny. I'm gonna put it in Peter. So Puck and Prejudice, as the title suggests, is a Pride and Prejudice retelling, except it's between Elizabeth Bennet, who is like Regency era England, and then Tucker Taylor, who is an ice hockey player from America. Accidentally drives into a pond, which, because of ancient Celtic magic, transports him back to the time that Elizabeth lived. It did actually have its moments like that were a bit serious. Like, Tucker has cancer, and so it was talking about the struggles that he went through, and also Elizabeth talking about the lack of women's rights when she lives, but then Tucker's like, actually, if you think about it, even now, like, there are so many barriers for women as well that still exist. The love hypothesis, I think maybe guilty as sin. Like, it honestly, it's so enjoyable. Like, it's so goofy, and objectively, is it good? No, of course not. But it's really fun, and it's like a fake dating romance between Olive and Adam Colson. I do completely understand the issues with like teacher-student relationships. Their age gap is like 7 years, I think. But it does address it in the book in some moments where he's like, oh no, I feel like this isn't okay because I am like a teacher and you're a student, but she's not supervised by him. And so it's like there isn't really that power imbalance where he could like exert that over her. But it was just so fun, and I think the reason why I love it so much is because it's biology related, and so I just really enjoyed reading about Olive's research and like the little biology jokes that I could understand as well. So yeah, that's why I really liked it. And then This Is How You Lose the Time War was like the perfect way of finishing off the year. So this book, oh my god, it's unlike anything else. You have two characters, Red and Blue. They're both spies, I guess, but they both belong to different opposing agencies, and these agencies are in charge of keeping timelines and realities in check. And so Red and Blue have to go back and forward in time along different like strings almost, like of reality and like different universes. If you do this one small thing, then that will have like, is it a butterfly effect or like domino effect, and will create like something bigger. And so that's what they're kind of in charge of. The book has like a circular structure, almost like the ending almost sets up the beginning, which is actually like crazy. Like, this book is so mind-blowing, it's so immersive, it's so fascinating. It's written in the form of letters that they give to each other. It's beautiful, like the love that's shown through it. And there was one part, okay, so I feel like this will help explain what I'm trying to get across. So because they're like immortal, I guess, they have so much time on their hands, so they will meet in the same place or reality, but not at the same time necessarily. So there was one scene where one of them had to lead a Mongol army during like the time of Genghis Khan. And so when they were setting up camp, and she ordered her troops to go and like cut down some trees, and within the like trunk of one of the trees was the letter from the other character. And so that other character knew that the other one would be there, and so it was like 500 years in advance, grew a tree by altering and like the amount of water she fed the amount of water she watered the tree with, so that it would grow and have the words inside the trunk. Like isn't that crazy? Genuinely like mind-boggling. And so it's like stuff like that where it's like, oh my god. So that book, actually amazing work of art, absolutely loved it, and it will stay with me forever. So that is my final guilty as sin book. Yeah, I feel like I'm quite happy with this ranking. I also need to heavily edit this video because it has been 1 hour 5 minutes of me talking. Whew, Jesus Christ. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know what other book videos you want me to make. I needed to make this video because I have not completely finished a book this year so far. That's actually diabolical. Like I got halfway between 3 different books, and then right now I'm almost finished with a non-fiction biology book because I was just like, I can't deal with fiction anymore. So like this is my current read. is super, super good. So it will probably come up in some videos in the future. But yes, I hope you have a great day and I love you loads. Mwah.